Hey everyone. Today is a little different. I'm going to talk about the message that came through this morning on anyadvicefortoday.com, and it said, you are manifesting a new life and world now. That's basically what it says, but I want to talk about it. And I have Jarne here, who is part of our team, and we're creating something so amazing, but we're going to talk about that. But I thought today would be a great day to talk about this particular message because it just came through this morning. This is what I've done since 1988. I get up in the morning, I meditate, I receive cosmic information to help guide and transform my life. And that's what I am giving back to others. And we have now come together with some other great people to bring a force to the world, basically. We've all seen or felt some changes within ourselves, and we've seen them obviously in the world, and we've questioned what was happening. And so several years ago, when I started shifting into a new way, people couldn't understand what I was doing, and many people in my circle didn't understand why I was changing. I was changing because I received cosmic information. I've done it forever. It's how I transformed my life and healed my life. And I know that every other person has the ability to do that. And when we don't, we go into chaos in our lives because we're not loving who we are. We're not bringing forth what we were meant to bring to the world. And then we have chaos. And those were the messages that I began receiving so long ago, but specifically for this time in our world. So, Jarne, what did you think of the message this morning?
It's just awesome because I have lived the day the message was meant for, basically, right?
Mm,
So I'm always a day ahead than
mm,
Roger, but for me it's now 11 p.m. And this is basically what I try to do, right? Because I was struggling today. Like just I was pulled in so many different directions. I wanted to do so many different things,
mm.
and then just followed my highest excitement and the joy at the end.
Perfect.
So, and I mean, how many times are we actually complicating our lives for doing things that do not excite us, that do not bring joy? And I really had to take a step back from me rushing myself, me trying to push something that I don't have to push, right? Because then I don't allow the flow to come in and really to receive, right? Because I'm blocking myself and I always push things, obviously. And yeah, you
You're
know,
yes, you are a brilliant example of what more of us really would should do at this time, because when we understand everything is about energy. So what you did was you listened to your energy, your internal energy, and decided to honor that, which we also know as our intuition, which many of us have difficulty trusting and going with. I had trouble with that, even though I was receiving intuitive information. It was still challenging for me to get that. Um, I have a right after we're doing this, I have a consultation with someone, and I have them fill out. And I want to talk about this because a lot of people I know have been experiencing this. I have them fill out an application before we do a session because I want to get some sense of it, and then intuitively, a lot of times information will come through where I can help them even more. And this person has said, I don't know what's going on with me. I feel I feel out of sorts. I just can't understand it. What's happening? That's going on for a lot of people. We're changing energetically. And so we each have our own blueprint we're meant to follow, but the world affects that energetically because it's going a little crazy. Gets us to go within, which is what's supposed to happen. And especially during this time in our world, because we're moving through a whole bunch of astrological changes and all that, we are all affected by the energy of our planets, whether we acknowledge that or not. And then we start to access parts of ourselves that we hadn't known before. But I talked about this, and this came through in the message this morning. This is a generational change that we are all moving through. And we can see it because we're trying to say, wait a minute, what are we going to do with women now? Should they be equal? Should they be the same as us, as men? Yeah, those are the issues that we're dealing with. And now, and the message talked about the United States, because the United States forever has been the leader of the world. Everybody looks to the United States. What are we doing? And now we're moving through this. And I talked about this, and Wilhelm gave a lot of this information over the last several years, that we're going to have a um, change in our financial structure. We're going to have a change in how we're dealing with everything, and a change in how we look at all people. But that can only come when we decide to look at ourselves, when we decide to let go of our judgments of who we are, our judgments of others, our hatred, our whatever it might be. But we have to understand they're in us, in our DNA. We came into the world with them. We all do. And it's just, and we do this throughout civilization. And if we look at our civilization, we can see it doesn't look anything like it did 500 years ago, because in each civilization, certain people decided, let's make things better. And that's what we're all up to doing now, if we decide to love who we are, if we decide to move through our old crap. That's really what it is. And that's what I had to do, because there was so much of it. That's why I never want anyone to think that what you've had to experience in your life was challenging or terrible and horrible and had no purpose. It had purpose. We all do. And that's what we're figuring out.
That's right. I mean, I can connect what you said with each one of us has this blueprint, right? I already start now talking about the energetic blueprint that we all have now and then again, of to connect this with the joy, right? From the message from today, if we actually following what our own energetic blueprint is about, then we have joy. And with that joy, we manifest what is right for us, right? We manifest what our soul came here for to experience or to achieve even, right? So
Right.
us being in this joyful state is us following our own energetic individual blueprint. They from each of us different, and each one of us so unique, and we need every one of us following that, rather than following the beliefs, following the judgments from someone else, because whatever they think, whatever they do is up to them. And it's up to us what we take on, what we can maybe, what we like, what we don't like, what we can use, and maybe implement the way that feels right for us, how we resonate with, rather than to repeating words exactly the same way someone else did, or, developing the same exact levels like someone else did. This is why no person development program for me at the end of the day helped me as much as me forgetting about it and then looking, okay, I have learned those things. How can I integrate them and apply them the way that I resonate with? Not that they don't explain good things, though for sure they do, but I'm not supposed to follow any scripts. I'm not supposed to do any of that, because I lose my uniqueness, right? And if I listen to many people, they're following scripts and they're losing their uniqueness. And it's time for us to change that, and time for us to be who we came here for to be, and expressing our joyful state, so we can really live as a collective in the world that we're living in. But if, as you see, the mainstream says things and people following, so we have to own who we are and take some risk, or have some courage to be who we are, rather than trying to be someone else.
Which is the nature of the work that we're doing. I want to talk about that. And we all will develop things that sometimes we doubt, that we just don't know if it's real. We all do, because we're creating something new. Every single person is doing that. But what happens is we will be afraid of it. Oh no, because it takes us into this unknown, this uncertainty. And I did that. When I first was told, because I receive everything intuitively, when I was told, well, we gave you everything that you could use. We gave you a new philosophy to bring into the world, because that's what's happening. We're creating a new world. This is not accidental what's going on. And that I had the work to help with this, and I kept doubting it. I kept going through that. And then when you guys came along, when the rest of you came about and we came together, yeah, that gave me, and I could, well, also when I could see what it was doing already for other people, then it made sense. And for more than 20 years, when I first started doing this in 1988, I didn't want anybody to know, because I thought, oh, they're not going to understand. They're not going to believe this, because I transformed so much of my life. I healed things that were unbelievable, because I started to get in touch with mind-body connection. When you can do that, when you understand that everything is consciousness and that you can change it, And I'm thinking, well, oh, that's what I was doing every single day. I cannot explain to you why, when I first started receiving this information in 1988, why I decided to write it down and save them all for all these years. Why did I save? You know, you just do things because you're guided. We all have this internal guidance that we're given. Everybody has a plan, everybody has a blueprint. And the work that I'm doing is just guiding, that we're all doing, that you and, you know, we're all doing as a team, is guiding people to their authentic selves, because that's where they live in joy. That's where they live in happiness. And that's where they live in prosperity, because that's their God-given ability that they have. But we have to move through all the other stuff first. And that's what we're doing. And the world is doing the same thing right now.
Exactly, you know, and like rather than looking what stuff other people carrying with them, right? And pointing everywhere, but not in the mirror, and the one who is looking right back at us, right? Like this is the one who we have to look at and have to
Yes.
observe. What is this one doing, right? How am I acting? How am I saying things? And how am I actually presenting myself in the world, right? Like if we make it about the internal and we learn really to connect mind and body, you know, thoughts
Mm.
and emotions is how I really like to see things and to talk about, because
Mm.
as long as we can, or as soon as we see observe our thoughts
Mhm.
and observe our emotions through this, we can change that, right? So if I can choose to feel happy, if I can choose to experience joy, right? To be fulfilled through shifting my thoughts,
Mhm.
vibrating higher, and therefore I receive higher frequencies, then we can really create a new world for us. But therefore we have to first like find out, okay, well, what is causing those
Right.
negative thoughts right now? You know,
Right.
like what am I doing? What am I not doing? You know, how am I presenting myself to the world? And this is really where we have to acknowledge that we are very powerful, right? And this is another thing that people underestimate. Can I say it like this?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we are not teached those things. We are not teach. They don't tell us in school how powerful we are. Like they don't tell us, right? I didn't knew you about about chakra. Someone would have asked me 5 years ago and would, or six, talk to me about chakras. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro?
Exactly.
Like I don't see them. I don't believe in this,
That's
right?
Yeah, that's the other thing I want to talk about, because I want people to understand we all have different levels of consciousness, different levels of awareness, and we change them again by our mindset work, mindfulness, like you suggested. That's how we do it, because there's no person who is any less than another. It's just in our minds, and no person has more ability to create or manifest or do anything that than any other person. It just doesn't happen. We just come to figure that out, but we have to move through the energetic old stuff that's in our DNA that we brought in, you know, and that's okay. But when we are unwilling to do that, it becomes a challenge. There were several people that I worked with, and it gets frustrating sometimes because you can see that they have this anger about something that happened, and approach is perfect. So now, but if you can work through and figure out why you had the experience, which was causing you to become angry, and then you get this awareness and say, oh, I can move past that now. But then when you decide to like not do that and you place it on someone else, which is what's happening now. There were so many messages that came through about blame. And they said during this time, this transition that you'll see in the world, this is the information I was receiving, everybody's going to try to blame everyone else for what's happened. It's their fault. They did it. And say, oh, and the moment you do that, then you disempowered yourself. Oh, we don't have any ability to change anything. It's about them. That's never the case. We create everything. We're creating our governments, we create our politicians, we do all of it. And we do everything energetically. And we do that by how much we are willing to love and accept ourselves and gain more ability, allow that ability that we all have to be manifest, to be actualized, so we can feel it. And so when I when we thought, Yarn and I both had the same idea, we're going to save the world, we're going to change. It wasn't like that, but we just knew. and Stan and Karen, also the other part of the team that we all know that we're given something that can not only help our lives if we, embody it and move to it, but also help others in the world. And that's the mission.
And it's a very deep topic. I mean, we're changing the world, right? It is like that. And this is what we have to spread out in the world as well. Because many people, we have to gain back some faith. We have to gain back some trust because we lost this, because we're killing each other, we're raping each other, we're doing horrible things to our brothers and sisters on this planet, and there's some darkness around, right? And I mean, every single one of us who has this meat suit on, right? Like we know what we're talking about there. Then we have thoughts. Sometimes also they are not pleasant, but we have to own each and everything that we have experienced, right? And to learn to love and accept ourselves, right? I mean, those two words, they're so deep, but therefore we have to learn to come together. Like, how powerful are we when we come together? If you look around, like I saw it, when was it? Today or yesterday? I don't know. We were sitting somewhere in a cafe, right? I think it was yesterday. And I see people, I mean, okay, yes, we're sitting on different tables, but people can't even look at you, right? Or like they look at you, and if you look back, they look in another direction. So people are so focused on everything that's externally, that this happens out of themselves, or then they look at people, they're processing something, whatever that might be, and then they're being looked at as well from the person they just looked at, and then they they look another direction. And how do I know this? Because I've been there and I've done that as well. It's not that I came here and I haven't had experience those things, but I learned, like, oh, I observed myself and like, what am I actually doing here?
Yep.
Like what? And this is insane. This is insane what we as collective, the game that is being played and the ignorance that comes with that, right? Like,
yeah, you're speaking of the sense of separation that we all feel,
sure,
that we
sure,
feel from ourselves and from
exactly,
source
because
or whatever. Yeah.
everyone is brewing their own magical drink, right? But what about we're sharing our magical drinks with each other? Like,
Yeah, we have, and if everyone could understand, we have times in the world where we have massive changes. And which is what we are moving through now. And when I started feeling this, started being guided to talk about all of this in years ago, it was 2016 actually when I first said, "Oh, I've got to start moving in a different direction." And then I sat down and I wrote an article because I wanted people to become aware. And the article, I said, what's the craziest title I could come up with? But it was called, I Might Be Slightly Racist with Misogynistic Tendencies. I wrote that in 2016, and people are saying, you, a Black person, racist? Yeah, because it's systemic. We develop thoughts and beliefs we don't even know we're taking in. And so unless we're willing to look at that, and then it depends on when we were born. I was born in 1950. So it was a very different world then. And so for women, they weren't seen as equal. They weren't there. I could see the progression happening over time. We can look back and think, like here in the United States, it was a little more than 100 years ago where women first got the right to vote. And now the struggle is still coming up now. The struggle, though, is within each of us. When we can look at our humanness and understand that everyone is equal, and we have to start bringing that to the world. And we can only do that when we look at the biases and things that we've had within us. And so I just had to be an example. That was it.
exactly. And this is another thing, like, what type of example do I want to be?
Right.
It is as simple as this. Like, what example do I want to be? And I mean, I can't complain, and can't make any difference and just complain. I have also to change something. If I'm angry about something that is, in my opinion, not working the way I would love to have, as many things on this planet, then I have to start doing things differently. Start being a good example for those ones who I want to influence, right? I'm not too sure, like influence, if we look at the word in and flu is in there as well. I'm not too sure about the word though.
Mhm.
But however, if I really want to impact people, right? If I really want to make a difference,
Mhm.
then I have to be a good example and a good role model.
Mhm.
Someone said to me, I think it was my travel in Australia after a year's time. I started preaching a lot.
Mhm.
I started preaching, right? Or like I just love teaching things. I think like the wisdom that comes out of me is through the experience that I have experienced, right? And through the shit and the mistakes
Mhm.
that just happen. However, 3 years ago, he says to me, an old friend, he says to me, Jarne, be the change
Mhm.
you want to see in the world, right? And I'm like, this hit me. Like, because I have talked about things that I don't like, but I haven't really took action, right? I haven't really changed something within myself to really make a difference. And from this moment on, I really has been with me, present in almost everything that I did, right? And now it's somehow integrated within me so I can be more and more even. I mean, it's a process, continuously
And
to
I
become better.
think, yes, thank you for that word, process. That's what we all have to recognize, which is why our work is done in this way daily. Every single day, you change your brain, you change your mind. That's why the mindset work is so important. However, we have to also understand the world's doing the same thing. And when you mention anger, we're going, they said, yeah, we're going to see a lot of that. And we see it going on because we want things different. And so, but when we can say how we're going to get there, and we get there by putting in, no matter, yeah, we're going to see things that are that we don't like that are happening in the world. We can change it, but if we're going to put more anger on top of that, rather than coming into it with a rational voice that could say, let's look at this in a new way. Maybe we could do something a little bit better or different. Or
Mm-hmm.
what could we do that's going to be better for more, for all, rather than just for me? What would be better for the collective or all that is? That's where we're,
Showing a solution, right? Like
yeah.
being solution oriented. If we look at it, like we can choose either one of them. I can focus on the problem. Okay, I know I've been there,
Mhm.
I've experienced whatever it is, but how can I do it better next time?
Yeah.
And this is really it. Like, I mean, if we look at the mindset, and like changing our mind step by step, it is not from today of tomorrow, but maybe I do 100 days of trying to change my mind, and I felt somehow I'm not moving forward, but the 101 day, I'm just like, I make such a great step because something just changed, right? I just started to understand something, had this light bulb moment, right?
Yeah.
And it's about continuous process and growth, and also being kind to ourselves when things do not work as we as we expected.
I'm going to talk about something else too, because people, because this will probably tie together. When people read the messages on any advice site, they will see that, especially over the last year or more, where I was guided to use messages from like 10 years or 12 years ago, whatever it was, to go back, to point out the fact that we grow in our consciousness a bit at a time. And it's over time because we're still locked into linear time being humans, even though in science, we know everything is happening in the now. That's just a difficult concept for a lot of people for us to get. However, when I go back and I look at some of the messages that they said, we gave you these messages to help you through this period, and that didn't make any sense. And then I started seeing it happening to get us all to understand that we have to let go of our disbelief about who we are. We have to understand that we were given something and it shows up at different times. And we are the ones who have to accept however strangely that might occur. And that's what I had to come to see, wait a minute, I was given this work that could help now. Yes. But it's still this period. I want people to understand this is more about collaboration. So it was challenging for me to really even think about pulling all of this together until I brought the rest of you guys in. I mean, I had Stan there, I had the others, but I needed to have, which we all are going to understand it's going to be very important during this time to get together with like-minded people, people who want to uplift themselves and the world. That's going to be so much more helpful, because then we create kind of momentum, a collective momentum that of up-leveling energy, so that we can see a very different world than what we've had. So yeah, I had to talk
Exactly.
about that, yeah, because it
It's
was so odd
awesome
when I was writing those, receiving those messages, so I wanted people to understand that.
because we somehow also have difficulties to see the bigger picture behind
The
certain
bigger
things. You know,
picture.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you're a great example, right? You channel information, and first you started out with channeling this information, you couldn't really see what it is for, right?
Right.
It just came step by step out of it. But every single one of us is receiving something, and I believe everyone here is having something to give, right? And the information that we receive as an individual, it is not really always meant for us, right? Like the information that I receive today with my partner, I can't recall what it was, but I received an information and it was clearly not for me. And I
Right.
didn't even knew why I was receiving this, and it sounds so weird. It just felt weird from alone, like, whoa, like, and I just spoke it out loud, and she just like, ah, it was for her
That's
in this moment, right? And
yes.
I want to make this clear for as many as I can make it clear for, because you receive information that might does not make sense for you right now, but it could be very, very valuable for someone else, or even for the collective, for us to grow, because we're here together and we have to see that it's not all about us, right? There's something larger than this physical body, right? And as long with this curiosity behind this, like, let's find out, right? Let's find out why I'm receiving weird informations, why I felt weird my whole life, why every time I try to fit in, I just didn't fit in. Let's find out the reason why.
Well, you
Right?
said you triggered something. This happens all the time. Somebody will say something, and I say, "Oh, my Wilhelm say we gave you a message. Go back, 2016, the bigger picture." That's what you just talked brought up. Okay, there are times in your life where manifestations of what you truly desire will occur differently than you imagined. You have an idea of who you desire to be or become. Now, because you only have the realization or experience of who you are now, it might be difficult for you to even envision a bigger picture of yourself. Now, someone else may see the bigger picture of you with much more clarity than you can now, because you have been limited in your experience and awareness. Now, this is a great time for you to get out of the way and allow the bigger picture offered to you by another lead you to the manifestation you desire. Now you have let go of even more of your resistance. Exactly the work we're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happens a lot.
it happens a lot. I mean, you also just, you remember how many times the word remember comes,
Yeah.
is in those messages, right? And the message for today again as well, what we were just started talking about. I just started reading it to Roger right before we started here. And like I read the word remember and I'm like, wow. And like it is for me also to remember, right?
Right.
I met a lady, her name is Faith.
Mm.
How ironic, right? And she's quite special,
Mm.
very, very special, very, very gifted. Like her psychic abilities, like or she's a mediumship and she taps into past, she could see things in me without me even talking about it.
Mm.
You know, that, what did she say to me? No, I lost the flow. Um, yeah, no, I lost it.
Mm.
However, like to bring it back to the psychic gifts that we all have integrated, right? Like we can pick up on things if we do not make it about ourselves, right? Or like there are people You know, as you, when you channel Wilhelm, I mean, where is he? You know, where is this information coming from? And it's in the ether, right? It's in the field, and we all have access to that field. It is just the question, are we intending to tap in, or what do we intending to tap in? I mean, you're channeling Wilhelm, and I tell you, every single one of us is channeling something. Like
Always.
you are energetically plugged into some frequency, right? And no matter what that frequency is, you channel that frequency. If you're into anger, you channel maybe some thing that is angry, some entity that has experienced anger, maybe your grandparents, because it's in your DNA. You adapted their race. So you actually channel the anger of your grandparents and project this out into the world, but it's actually not you. And you ask yourself, well, where's this anger coming from? It is hilarious. Like, I see it now with eating, people's eating behavior, right? I have to find myself sometimes when it's so tasty that I forget to taste, right? That I forget to chew, and I'm eating, and I'm like, where's my food? It's gone. And I didn't even knew that I have eaten. Like, it's just so fast.
Mm.
And I feel, and I believe strongly that many of us plug into some other energies, other frequencies that are still here on planet Earth around.
Mhm.
Yeah, that we're slowly but surely, I don't know where we push them towards, but they leave this planet. I have no idea where they go, but there are some spirits around here, some energies around that are evil, that are dark, they're how do I say, manipulating
Mm.
things, right? They're talking weird things into our ears. I don't know, and like we have to be very, very mindful of what we are channeling and what frequency we vibrate on. And then for the people, okay, yes, how can I change this? And advice from me to give is learn to be grateful for what you have and
That's
try to be grateful in the moment of what you experience. So for me,
mm.
I said, okay, I don't want to watch anything whilst I'm eating today. I wanted to look at my partner. I wanted to have a conversation. And I asked her what she was grateful for today.
You so yeah, we can finish up with this. You got up some great stuff because you said about the channeling. I want people to understand this, and this is why I wanted, for the longest time, I wouldn't have done the channeling publicly, but I knew I had to do that because I was being guided. But then I also wanted people to see it because and to understand, when I'm in that state, when I'm receiving Wilhelm, I'm feeling great. There are no problems. I can see the perfection of everything. I can see the perfection of every single person. I see the perfection of our world. And it's just a wonderful place. And then I come out of it and I come back to Roger. I still have to go through. I have to listen. I have to ingest. I have to implement, assimilate. I have to do the same thing. We are all doing that. I just have this other ability to bring in this information, but I still have to use it myself, as we all do. It was just everybody has a gift that comes through in different ways. This was just the one that developed within me. But now we all have something that we're meant to give to the world. That's how we all get better. That's how the world gets better, which was again about the message this morning. We're manifesting a new life and world.
Exactly. And now I want to ask everyone who takes the time to listen to this, like, who do you want to be, right? Who do you want to be? You have several options already existing within your own thoughts, right? You eventually think of them your whole life, and you try this out, and you try this out, and you try this out. So who do you choose to be, right? Who do you choose to be? And then from there on, what can I do to become even more of that character, of that type of being, energy, whatever, right?
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll attach today's message to this video, because then when people hear it and hear this video and then also read the message, it'll make much more sense. But thank you. We're doing it. That's our new slogan. We're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're making a better world by causing as many people as possible to become happy, in love with themselves, and to prosper. That's the dream.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.